Hi, everybody. Welcome to the 2023 NaNoWriMo House Party, where we're going to write like it's 1999. What does that mean? I don't know. We'll get out our quills and what were we writing with in 1999? I don't know. I was writing on like a really funny, it wasn't Microsoft Word. It was like my computer had its own little funny thing its own word processor. Anyway, that's what we'll do, I guess. I'm Mariah. I am the Director of Programs at National Novel Writing Month. You may have heard of us. And I'm here with 3 other Nano staff members. And maybe we can just introduce ourselves really fast, and then I'll go into what these 2 hours will look like, and just some housekeeping things. And then we can get started with our writing and our games and everything. And while we're introducing ourselves, feel free to say in the chat. You can drop in where you're writing from. You can drop in, I saw, Berkeley, California, just in the chat, but that was just Grant saying that. So never mind. I'm not so surprised then. You could drop in where you're writing from. You could drop in maybe what NaNoWriMo it is for you. So your first one, your 5th one, your 25th one, because it could be your 25th one in theory if you started in 1999. Yeah, drop in those things. Okay, so I already said myself. I'll let Grant introduce himself.
I wish I had it in my official bio so I could read from it. But no, I'm executive director of National Novel Writing Month, but I'm also writing with you all. And this is the first year that I've pantsed before, but not so purely as I'm doing it this year. So a couple weeks ago, I asked a barista what she would title a novel, or to bequeath me a title for my novel, and she said The Kaleidoscope. So those are the only 2 words I had going into NaNoWriMo. No characters, no setting, no plot, nothing. And so this is the first time I've done that. It's been super fun so far. I'm not producing as many words as I should, but I hope they'll come. And so the whole novel is kind of based on just accepting randomness, random things that come to me. So I look forward to the prompts today to get more randomness in there.
Nice. Shelby.
Hi, I'm Shelby Gibbs. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at NaNoWriMo. I've been working here since 2012. So I get this might theoretically be my 10th Nano or my 11th Nano, depending on how you do the math. But I've participated in earnest maybe 4 or 5 times. And this is one of those times. This is one of those times. I'm on track. I haven't written yet today, but I'm on track. I'm on track to win.
That's a big deal.
It's a really big deal.
You may not know this watching behind the scenes, but NaNoWriMo November is very busy for us, so not all of us make it.
Yeah, no, we don't all make it, but I might make it this year. Just might do it.
And then Alex.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alex Koval. I am the newly appointed Director of Technology here at NaNoWriMo. And this is my first time as a Nano participant, longtime admirer. I've seen a lot of my friends and some family members go through the process, and I've always cheered them on and rooted for them. And some of them have completed the challenge. So it's pretty cool to be kind of part of it this year and just, deep in the environment. And it's cool to meet everybody. So glad to be here.
Thank you. We've got someone in the chat who says, I love the dapper goose in the background.
Yeah, he's handsome for sure.
Yeah. And in the chat, I see people joining us from all over, and also a lot of first years. And I think the longest one was a couple people who said this is their 14th year, but I maybe missed. It was moving pretty fast, so I might have missed something. So if you're like, it's my 15th, you missed me, feel free to shout that out again, because that's pretty cool. Okay.
Some people from all over.
We have a full pantser too. M. Larson. I love that term, full pantsers. I think we need gradations of pantsing.
Yeah, and if for all the first years, pantsing is like you write by the seat of your pants. So you just kind of start writing with nothing but maybe an idea or a title, like Grant. And then the opposite is, well, it's not opposites, but the plotter, who has their outline and everything. I'm more of a plotter. In the middle, it's a plantser, which I'm definitely more of a plantser.
I'm more of a plantser.
Yeah.
We also have a lot of love for the chainmail. So yeah, I think you should just not explain the chainmail.
Oh, wait a minute. What are people talking about?
Everybody just loves the chainmail. And in another live stream I did with you, people were asking in the chat, explain the chainmail, and you didn't. And then
Well, it's like wearing a t-shirt or socks or jeans.
This is what he looks like in every meeting.
It's just a normal part of my wardrobe. I don't know what explanation. I mean, I'm not asking other people to explain their clothing.
It's true. Yeah, stop asking for explanations.
No, there's a big bias against people with chainmail in the world.
Right. It's really awesome chainmail. I've seen it in person.
I recommend chainmail to everybody. It's like, well, I have a theory that, a theory that essentially everyone looks better in chainmail. No one looks bad in chainmail.
I love
It's
it.
guaranteed. It's guaranteed. Can really fit any occasion too.
I see people sharing that they're planters, they're planters. I like Sam G says I call what I do gentle plotting, which I think is what I do too, actually. I'm gonna
I like that.
gentle plotter from now on. Okay, so no bias, much love. So today I have a couple things that I'm going to explain. So if this is your first time joining us, this is a 2-hour webcast. You do not have to stay the 2 hours. No one is checking your in and out. So you can dip in, you can dip back, you could stop for lunch and then come back, keep us on just in your voice, in your little ear. And the way it will look is we're going to be doing some writing prompts so you can get some words down. We're going to do some writing games, and we'll discuss a little bit some of our best advice for NaNoWriMo. And yeah, and then in the second hour, so we have, we'll be joined by Andrea Stewart, who's the best-selling author of The Bone Jar Daughter. And she'll come to offer advice and give us a writing prompt, and we'll write together for a little bit. And then we'll have a full half hour, I think, to just ask her all of our questions, because I'm sure we've got a lot of questions. It's day 5 of November. How's that possible? It feels like it's been November for 1,000 years so far. Don't tell my word count though, because it does not look like that. But yeah, day 5. So I'm sure there's, a lot of questions we can ask her for the rest of the month. Okay. Hopefully by the end of the hour, you'll have some words written and you'll be really pumped to keep writing throughout the month. And another thing I just want to, so this is our finale event of our Double Up donation weekend. And what that means is, so we're really proud to be a majority community funded charity. So that means like people like you, and we run programs all year that are totally free. We're trying to reach $150,000 by the end of today. And I was checking with Shelby before this started, our chief operating officer, and she said we're at 110,000 so far, which is awesome, which makes me feel like we could make it. We've got, full half of the day left in front of us here I'm in Oakland. And yeah, so that's amazing. And another goal we have is we were trying to reach 150 million words together, but we already are at 138 million. So we're raising the goal. So now we're going to try to reach 200 million words together, which is bonkers. And that means
so many words.
I know. It means 200 million words written just like in these 2 days, which is amazing. That's so many words. I feel like Scrooge McDuck, but I'm like diving into like, you know what I mean? Like alphabet soup or something. Okay. So why is it called Double Up Donation Weekend? We double up on donor goodies. So if you donate 25, you get 50. If you donate 50, you get the $100 gifts. Also, any donation $25 or above gets a really cool enamel pin. And if you look at the description of this video, you'll see a link to our donation weekend page. And that has all this information on it. So if you're like, she's talking too fast, why is she saying Scrooge McDuck? You can just click on that link and you'll see everything I'm saying repeated in a much easier to understand way. I just want to give you the basics because it's pretty cool, because we also have all these really cool raffle prizes going on throughout the day. Raffles or giveaways? Raffles?
Giveaways. It's a giveaway.
Okay.
Not
Sorry,
a
I
raffle.
know there was
It's
one
not a
word I
raffle.
was supposed to use and one word I was not supposed to use. And
Yeah.
maybe I can just edit that out in post. So giveaways, depending on the time you donate. So you can check out that link again, and I'll drop it in the chat as well and pin it. So you can check that out for the full schedule. Because I know if you donate, between this next hour, you have the chance to win these really cool author art prints. And yeah, that's really cool. And we also have some big sweepstakes prizes. So the sweepstakes prize for the weekend, if you donate at least $10 during the weekend, you get entered into this giveaway for a balcony cabin for 2 on Joko Cruise, which is, I'd never heard of it, and it seems really cool, and now I want to go when I learned about it. So check that out. Again, that link, and I'll pin it in a second. And then we also have this really cool, exciting prize that was just announced today, which is a flash prize of $500 Airbnb coupon. And that one, since international Rhymos aren't eligible for the Joko Cruise, you get double the entries for your donation for this flash prize at the Airbnb. Wow, there's a lot of information. Also, we have a $25,000 match today. So if you donate, that's a lot of match. If you donate today, that match, your donation will get matched. So it kind of doubles up your donation. So many doubles today. And okay, I think this is my last big thing to announce, but right now it's a power hour. So for the next 45 minutes, if you donate at least $10, you get 2 entries instead of 1. And if you become a monthly donor in the next 45 minutes, you get 4 entries instead of 1. Boom. I think she did it. I probably missed something.
Can I summarize, Mariah?
Please summarize.
I think 2 messages without the details is just a summary. Please write a lot.
Okay.
And please donate what you can.
Yes.
And if you can't donate, you can also enter for free in the giveaway, not the raffle.
And that
Didn't say raffle.
And that will be sorry, when you have something in your head and you're like, don't think of an elephant, don't think of an elephant, and then like all you can do is think of a stupid elephant. So I guess I thought of the elephant. And I'm gonna, like I said, pin that link right now so you can check it. If you can't donate, you can find on that link, I think, information for how to enter. And if you can't donate also, like we're that's fine. Like sometimes you're in the position.
Write more than,
yeah,
right?
Just write.
Make it up with writing.
Just by coming to these events and by like sharing your energy and being in the chat and, spreading the word about NaNoWriMo, all of that is really important too. And we would just be like a bunch of weirdos trying to get people to write a novel, but because so many people do it, instead we're this awesome community of people who do it. So being part of our community is really important, whether or not you can become a donor. Okay. Whew. Now I think I'm ready to move on to the party. Can you imagine if you went to a house party and the host was like, okay, before you come in, I'm going to need to explain a couple things to you. And they explain that.
That's not how your parties go? That's how I run my parties.
I always have FAQs for my guests, where the restroom is.
I do actually kind of run my parties like that. Like I like label the bathroom just in case people don't know where the bathroom is. So I guess that is how
this is kind of how we ran the night of Writing Dangerously. There were a lot of FAQs and a lot of logistics.
That's so funny that we're all about creativity and pantsing, but then in our actual lives we're like, no, we need it. We need a spreadsheet. We need everything. Okay. So we're gonna move on to what I said we would do, because like remember we're trying to get to 200 million words today. And so we're going to move on to the part where there's going to be some word prompts and sprints where we write, some discussion about writing advice, and also some games. And I think I'm going to start with a game because I've been talking so much, so why not do something a little fun? And the way this game is called This or That. So it's pretty simple. I'm going to give you 2 options. And if you can either, like if I said red or blue, and then you can only pick one. And I know that it's setting up a false binary, and I apologize because I normally don't like binaries, but it's a game, so you just kind of have to pick one, this or that. And in the chat, you can just type in one word or the other. Like if you were like blue, you can type in blue, or the other one. But these are writing related. Okay, ready? We'll start with an easy one. Night writer, morning writer. And we're going to go in order really fast. So it's going to go Grant, Shelby, Alex, me. All right, ready? It has to go fast. That's part of the game. You just have to like follow your intuition. Do you like to write in the night? Night writer, morning writer. And if you're in the chat, you could say night or morning. I see people saying red and blue right now, but we're past that.
I want to note to everybody that Mariah used to be a teacher, and she's giving fantastic directions to the students here.
Thank you. Very clear. All right, Grant. Night writer, morning writer.
Super early morning writer.
Super early morning. Shelby.
Night writer.
Alex.
As someone who mostly writes horror, Knight Rider for sure.
I would say morning writer. And I used to be able to write more, but then I had a baby, so now I have to wake up even earlier, I guess, which is maybe why you're an extra early morning writer, Grant. Let's see. In the chat, it is mostly split, I think. Okay, so we're kind of both. All right, maybe we'll try the next one. Tea, coffee. All right, Grant.
Coffee. Lots of it.
Tea. I miss coffee. I can't drink it anymore. I drink it on special occasions, but I drink tea every day.
Alex.
I would say mostly coffee.
I would also say coffee. Let's see if that got the chat going.
Yeah, I always think we have more tea. There are a lot of coffee.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
we always think of ourselves as a tea crowd, but I'm
I
seeing a lot
know.
of coffee.
I've always thought of us as 50-50. I have mad respect for everybody who's like both.
Yeah.
Back when I could drink coffee, I would do coffee in the morning and tea in the afternoon. That's probably why I had to cut back on my caffeine through tea.
I do the mushroom.
I like the person who says, I'm not emotionally prepared to choose between the two. I love the hot chocolate too. Yeah.
Oh, can I defend tea to Blue Arc 9?
Sure.
He might be drinking the wrong tea. I just gotta say, I switched to like a nice loose leaf Earl Grey from a local tea vendor, and it's like very fancy, and I feel mixed feelings about it, but oh my gosh, it tastes so much better than bagged tea. So
now Shelby, as a tea drinker, because tea has more of a kind of ritual around it and more like accoutrements, right?
Oh, interesting. I think when you do loose leaf tea, yes, but I think when you just do bagged tea, no. And that was part of why I had to go to loose leaf, because I actually found coffee had a big ritual around it.
Okay, moving on.
Okay.
Music or silence when you're writing? Grant.
You put me, this is like just, I can't make the binary choice here because I do both, but yeah, music, really gloomy, moody music without lyrics.
Shelby.
Same, anything, music without lyrics.
Alex.
I am way too easily distracted, so I'm going to be voting silence on this one.
Me too, silence. I don't know how people can do music.
There are two soundtracks that I write to pretty much every single nano, and they now, I think I've like Pavlovian brained my brain into anytime I hear the Pride and Prejudice soundtrack or the Anna Karenina soundtrack, I'm like, oh yeah, I do write novels.
That's actually, I think that's actually really real, and we can talk about that later. But having like rituals tied to creativity, I think really do actually like help you be creative in that moment. Just like when you're like, I go to work, I put on this, your Mr. Rogers sweater or whatever, having something tied to the moment. And I know what you mean. I went to a writer talk and the writer said that they listened to what you just said, the same soundtrack every single, and it was like magic. For me, that magic is like brown noise. Like I like to listen to brown noise, which is, I didn't include that in my binary. So that tells me now it's time to write. Okay, let's see, what did we have? Bridgerton soundtrack. Yeah, if you listen to music, feel free to share like what you listen to, because we've got 25 more days of November and I might get quiet, like tired of listening to nothing. Video game music, instrumental music, The Sound of Silence, written in all capitals. Noise, train sounds. Yeah, that's kind of like white noise. Thematic music. Cool. Oh, the Phoenix Ink lot literally has a playlist for each scene. I admire that.
Oh.
I think if you're like have a musical brain, that's that kind of helps. Okay, let's do one more and then we'll do our word sprint. Okay, last one. Okay, start at midnight, like on October 31st, turns to midnight, you start Nano, or oh my God, it's November already, question mark? So are you a person who starts right on time, like you stay up till midnight or you wake up really early and do it? Or are you like, it's like 8 o'clock on November 1st and you're like, oh shoot, I forgot. Grant.
I consider 8 o'clock on November 1st a perfectly urgent time to start writing. So yeah,
Some people I see some people saying OMG November. That's a good way to do it. Or midnight or perfect. Shelby, which
Yeah.
one do you do?
I'm probably an OMG November, not because I'm shocked that it's November, but I think just having worked here, like there are a lot of things that we as staff have to like put into motion on November 1st, and like questions that need answering, and like participants that need support. And it can put you in the mood of like, oh my gosh, what about I also have to participate if I'm participating that year. So OMG November.
OMG. Alex.
Absolutely an OMG November for sure. Probably just for planning purposes, but yeah, absolutely.
Me too. I was shocked actually when I found out people stay up until midnight to write. And I love it. Like I think it's really cool. I just I had never thought of doing it. And I see
on Halloween.
A lot of people saying OMG November. But I do
So,
also like the midnight crowd out there, which is really cool. I admire you.
I really like, this kind of goes back to your first question about when you like to write. I like to get like a bunch of words down early, and then it makes like finishing the day's word count less intimidating. And I feel like that midnight crowd has cracked that science where you're like, okay, if I start my novel at midnight, I can then, it's kind of still October 31st. That's how I view it. Like I'm a night owl. The day doesn't end until I go to sleep.
Yeah.
So it's like a way to cheat without cheating.
That's what it is, Shelby.
It sets you up for success for later November 1st.
I feel like you're totally right. Even if you wrote like 50 words, you get to wake up on November 1st and be like, I have words down.
It's already done. I've consider it already done.
I love that.
Yeah, I don't do it, but I see you and I respect you in the chat.
Me too. Okay, so speaking of writing, we're going to do our first word sprint. And a word sprint is when if you're new, it's a short amount of time, but you write as much as you can. And the idea of writing fast means that you don't have time to question if the word is right, or if the story is going well, or if you even should be writing it. Like you just have to let go of all the inner critic stuff and just write. And we're going to do the first one for 8 minutes because that's like, I like to start small and then build up. And you can be writing your NaNoWriMo project. If you like the prompt that I'm going to give you, you can use it. If you hate the prompt, you don't have to use it. You just get to use the time that we have together. And this is a prompt that I've used at every house party that we've done because I like it. And the prompt is, I'll put it in the chat as well. Use the word jamboree or some other kind of party in your next scene. So try to work in the word jamboree or a different word for party, like hootenanny, soiree, party, festival, just some word for party in your next scene. And maybe bonus points if it's jamboree, but not really. See if that sparks you.
Definitely okay. bonus points for hootenanny.
Yeah, I know. Hootenanny's for you. I'm gonna go ahead and start a timer. I'm just looking for this chat so I know that we're still here. Sorry, my computer isn't big enough to. Oh, fat. That's a beautiful one. Yes. Fall ball, shindig. Yes, thank you. People are showing in the chat some really good alternatives. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and click start on my timer and it should appear on our screen. And in 8 minutes, we'll be back. Ready, set. Right. Didn't work. Let me try again. Right. Yes, worked. Okay, that was 8 minutes. You can go ahead and just like come out of the daze of writing, which is a fun daze to be in. I love that feeling. And drop in the chat maybe your word count if you like to share that. You could drop in a favorite sentence, maybe the sentence where you tried to work in the word for party, or you could just try to drop in the word for party that you did. And I'm getting a couple questions. We're about 36 minutes in, so I'm going to just repeat a couple things. So if you're just getting here or got here after my beginning spiel, this is our house party. We used to call it a kickoff party, but that's because the first one we had was on November 1st. And it's November 5th, so it's been kicked off, but we're still like flying. And so this is our house party, and we'll do the first hour. So we're about 36 minutes into that. Will be what you see now. So different staff members doing some discussions about writing, some word sprints together, and some fun writing games, or like funish, I guess. And hanging out with also the people in the chat who I'm really excited, all over the world, writing all kinds of things. And then at what is 1 p.m. for me, but might be any time for you, we have our guest author, Andrea Stewart, joining us. And she'll give us a writing prompt too, and maybe we'll make her play a writing game. And then we'll get to do some Q&A. So if you've got some questions for a published author, save it for then. Or I mean, you could ask us, but I'm excited to hear from her and hopefully end these 2 hours with a lot of words and some inspiration and feeling really good about writing. This is also our double up donation weekend. So I'm going to go ahead and, since we're done with that prompt, I'm going to drop in the chat the link where you can learn all about the different prizes. And we've still got 23 minutes of the power hour left. So if you donate in the next 23 minutes, you get 2 entries into our giveaway. And if you become a monthly donor in the next 23 minutes, you get 4 entries, which is really cool. This is kind of like our version of the like public radio like drive, so like if you're like, she already said that, I'm like, yeah, but have you ever listened to NPR when they're doing like their drive? They say it 1,000 times. Okay. Whoa, so many words. Gardening with Soul says in Tucson the jamboree was about the Day of the Dead. It was 200 words. I'm just zooming around. Hipster Cat says, dang, there are some impressive numbers here. Don't mind me while I slowly glob my words onto the page. LOL. Hipster Cat, same. Like, I don't write fast. You notice I didn't share my word count? I don't want to. You don't need to compare yourself to anybody. It's fun to like have a lot of words, but all that really matters is you got something down. Truly, that's all that counts. If you wrote, 100 words a day, you would end up with a novel. It would just take you a little longer, but it doesn't matter. The important thing is to just keep going. That Chick Piper TV has 150 words and used hoedown for my word for party. Anne LeBlanc says one of their favorite sentences was, we can call it a book jamboree, Louisa said excitedly. Everyone can bring their favorite book to lend someone else. I would love to go to a book jamboree. That's really cool. Lynn Eisenhower says, no, this wasn't some fancy meal and some fancy house party, but then those kinds of things didn't happen much in Elfjaw. I love that. Okay. And Susie Perkins says, oof, only 260 words, which that's a lot of words. Mine was a Victorian masquerade ball. Love that. Okay. Very cool. I definitely recommend like reading through the chat if you have more time, because there's a lot of cool stuff here. And
a new word too.
Yeah.
Extravagala, extra bonus points for new words.
Cool. I like what Sokolva says. I type quickly doesn't mean I'm a better writer than anyone else. I end up having to cut and change a lot in the editing process like we all do. Thank you for sharing that, because I think, it's natural to compare yourself to someone, and like you compare like your first draft to someone's final draft, or your word count to someone else's word count, and it doesn't, like, it's not helpful, but it's really hard to keep that in mind. Okay, the author's name is Andrea Stewart, John. And you can see that all that information in the description of this video too. Okay, so before we go on to our next prompt and our quick game, well, what should we do? I have a discussion prompt we can talk about. No, let's do this first. I'm going to do 4 more, this or that, and then I'll end with a question that we can answer, and then we'll do our prompt. Okay, so this or that. If you're just joining us, you just have to pick one or the other. I'm forcing us to choose. First draft lover, revision lover. First draft, revision. Grant.
I do NaNoWriMo so that I have a rough draft as soon as possible, and then I spend years revising it. And I love revision.
Shelby.
First draft. I don't revise because I never plan to publish.
Love that.
I just write for funsies.
Revision's fun too, Shelby.
I just don't, I am like, yeah, I'm sure it is. I haven't given it a shot.
Alex.
I would say revision lover. I feel like whenever I revise something, I learn so much about myself, like just seeing kind of what naturally comes onto the page. So, and tweaking it as I go is fun.
Same. I love revision. That's funny that we're all
3 of the 4 of us.
Yeah, 3 of the 4 of us. That's right. A lot of people, Shelby, you're in good company. Like, I love that people, like, no one thinks of writing as something you can do for fun, but like nobody blinks when people like paint for fun, and they're not trying to get the net, you know, they're just like for fun.
If you take a dance class, you're allowed to just dance for fun. You're not expected to like make money at it. And that's one of the things that's always bothered me about writing is there's this, like, I grew up, I'm sure like a lot of people in our chat and who participate and on our staff. And I loved to write. And I think the immediate impulse is like, how can you turn that into a job? How can you make money off of that? And I didn't feel fed by that.
Yeah. One of the questions I hate the most is when people ask me, what happens to all those novels? You know, as if something's supposed to happen to them.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. They exist, and that's exciting.
Exactly.
We've got kind of an equal mix in the chat. Also some really interesting comments, which we should read. All right. Slow and steady, all at once. So do you do a little bit every day, or do you do huge bursts? Because I know some people do that. Okay, slow and steady, all at once. Grant.
Slow and steady is my preferred way.
Shelby.
Slow and steady. If I get behind, I just can't. It's really hard for me to catch up, and I am not capable of writing for long bursts at a time. So slow and steady.
Alex.
I would also say slow and steady. I feel like the best way for me to succeed at something is to turn it into a routine. So, yeah.
I'd also say slow and steady, actually.
We got a lot of slow and steadies in chat.
Yeah, I like this.
Go fast and steady. Good for you.
This is another one that I thought I didn't even realize that people could do this, but then I started working at Nano, and there are people who really write like 10,000 words a day, or, you know, and I was like, how? That's amazing. And I think Sarah, who's our director of community engagement, she writes like that, and I know that people do. I'm just like, I don't know how you do it.
I kind of tricked her into writing last night. She and I have a bit of a competitive nature when it comes to our NaNoWriMo novels, and that's how we keep each other accountable. And I had written for the day and she had not, and I shared my word count with her, and then she sat down and wrote like 800 words in 15 minutes, and I was like, how did you do that?
She writes really fast.
She writes so fast.
I love, Shelby, that by sharing your word count, though, that you motivated Sarah to do hers. That's like,
I knew it would work, and that's why I did it.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
The most I ever wrote in one day was 5,000 words my last day, like November 30th, my very first time trying NaNoWriMo. And it's because I'd already decided I wasn't going to win, and that was okay. And then this kid that I went to high school with shared that he won on Facebook, and I didn't even know he'd been participating. And I was like, oh, heck no. And then I was like, I can do 5,000 words in a day. And I did.
The spite win is powerful.
I know.
I don't know if it's healthy, but I've done it.
Sealed many a great achievement, Shelby.
I guess.
And we did this on November 1st this year. We did some write together-a-thons with some published authors who we did shared prompts and we wrote together, but they also shared some advice. And a lot of those authors shared that they end up writing in like 20 minutes here or there throughout the day. So Jasmine Guillory, I think, was saying that she takes like a notebook with her everywhere. So like if you're waiting for 20 minutes at the bus or, you know, at the doctor's office, you can get the words start to build up. So you don't necessarily need like a whole hour-long chunk. Like you picture the writer like in their attic with an hour of nothing, you know, but you can do it throughout the day if you bring that notebook with you. And leave your phone, crush your phone with a hammer is what I would have to do. I think I should do that.
I feel like NaNoWriMo has changed the time management of writing in general, because I think more and more people, I heard the term time confetti to describe it, which I love as a metaphor for all these little pockets of time and like using them. And speaking of the webcasts we've done, Mariah, Kwame Mbalya, he does this thing where he'll just post it on Twitter. He'll say, "Drop and give me 50, like 50 words," and he's like a working parent, so he'll just like, yeah, just write 50 words in just some little pocket of time. But he says usually 50 words turns into like 200 or 300 or 400 or something like that pretty quickly.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so we have about 4 minutes left, and if you, I mean, in my personal timeline, because I'm like, we're going to take the last 10 minutes before one to do our writing. So really quickly, if you have any really good advice to share for writer's block, because that's a pretty common question I get, both in the Young Writers program, but also just in general, people saying, I have writer's block, what do I do? And it can feel especially like panicking, I think, if you're like, I'm trying to write in November and I have to get 50,000 words and now I'm stuck. So if you have any really good advice, and that goes for you in the chat as well, feel free to share what's worked for you before. So this isn't a like this or that, but just more of a advice question. And I would say that one thing that is helpful is the thing we just shared. So like drop and give me 50. If you make yourself do 50 words, even if you start those 50 words as just saying like, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know what I'm doing, like eventually that turns into something else. So I'll share one thing that works for me is if I write about why I can't write, then I sometimes start being able to write. So I'll just start writing and say like, I feel stuck. Why do I feel stuck? Why are you so bad, to the novel? And the novel's like, this part is really boring because it doesn't matter to you. And I'll be like, you're right, it doesn't matter to me. Why am I doing, and then eventually I kind of get unstuck by kind of writing like that. Any other advice for writer's block?
I like to, like if I'm stuck on a particular thing, I like to go out and try to put myself in a situation where I'm kind of exposed to the thing that I'm trying to write about. So like if I'm trying to write about a setting or something, I try to put myself in some sort of setting that is similar to the one I'm writing about. Or if it's a character I'm stuck on, I try to like go to a cafe, people watch for a little bit, just to like, kind of be immersed in the thing that I'm having a hard time putting into words. And sometimes that'll help me like shake out of it. I think I think just going for a walk sometimes is super helpful just to get that physical activity, because sometimes your brain will just stall out. So it's my best advice.
I do this thing where I'll kind of go online and look for prompts. And my favorite way to do that is to go to the Poetry Foundation site and to use their search box. Like, so for my novel, The Kaleidoscope, I literally just typed in kaleidoscope and I got bunches and bunches of poems that had the word kaleidoscope in them. And it was a really fun way just to kind of daydream about my story and the characters, like through this like image. And so the principle being to not write your novel, but to write off the page for a while. And then you can string, for me, it's just like a story generation kind of inspiration thing. And it's great first thing in the morning too, because it's good to like warm up. So I oftentimes do it just to warm up.
Cool.
I do both what Mariah and Alex said, that like writing out, like, I don't want to be writing this right now. Like this isn't real. Like this is nonsense. This is boring. No one would ever say this. And I think that helps me get to the place where it becomes something that someone would say or do. And then, yeah, I think moving around, like going for a walk, dogs are great writing companions for that reason. But I also think just like focusing on something else, like go take a shower, go eat something. Like, when was the last time you ate? When was the last time you had water? Be sure you're doing those things. Yeah, I think there are many paths through.
And I see people are sharing so many great things in the chat that I would just advise anybody watching this, you can scroll back and find one that works for you, because there really is like a variety of things, and you never know it's going to work until you try it. But one thing that you can know is that this is something that happens to all writers. Like your favorite writer has absolutely stared at the page and been like, I can't do this. It's just what it is. Okay, so we're going to do our next writing prompt, and we'll write for, let's do 10 minutes, even though that's going to take us right to 1. And the prompt is, so our guest who's coming at 1 is Andrea Stewart, author of The Bone Shard Daughter. So I thought I would take an inspiration from the title. And so the prompt is to try to work a bone into the next scene somehow. Maybe someone had a broken bone, maybe your dog finds a bone. My brother just sent me this fact, which is maybe not true, I don't know, that there's a cave in the Appalachian Mountains that's so old that it was formed, there's no bones in it because it was formed before boned creatures walked the earth, which I thought was fascinating. And again, I don't know if it's true, but maybe I'll work that into my novel somehow.
Yeah, write a novel about that.
I
I know,
have heard
right?
the Appalachian Mountains are older than bones. I've heard that phrase before.
Yeah, I think they
My
might be.
family's from East Tennessee, so that's where.
So I think it is older than bones. Anyway, so try to work a bone, even if you just have a character say bones is like an expletive, like that word that comes. All right, so I'm going to put that prompt in the chat, and I'm going to do our timer for 10 minutes, and I'm going to start now. Oh, now. And that's time, 10 minutes. Go ahead and stop what you're doing. You can finish up that last sentence. If you really are in a flow, like just keep flowing. That's a really precious state to be in. We're at the hour, which means we're about to start our second hour of the house party, which means we're gonna, I think, say goodbye to our current guests and get some new Nano staff members and also our special author guest. So while we're doing that, feel free again to share in the chat, like your word count, favorite sentence. If you also want to try to share your novel, but in only emojis, like a synopsis of your novel in emoji form, feel free to do that too. And it can be like 3 emoji, or I mean, don't do like, 1,000 emoji. I think that'll break the chat, but see if you can do that. That's like a fun challenge. So I'm going to admit our new guests, and then I guess say goodbye to our old ones once the new ones are in. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Is this the like you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here?
It's so sad we're being called the old guests.
I'm sorry. It's been lovely to have you.
This is so fun. Oh, it's Tiffany. Hi, Tiffany. Bye, Tiffany.
We're the old guests.
Our time together was so short.
Thanks, Mariah. That was wonderful.
Yeah, thank you for hosting, Mariah, and thank you
Yeah,
everyone
absolutely.
for hanging out.
Yeah, good luck with the challenge.
I'm going to read the FAQ now.
Congrats, new guests.
All right. Goodbye, old guests. Hello.
Goodbye.
Welcome.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Okay. I think we're all, I'm seeing us all here, but I'll wait for everyone to get their camera on. So while that's happening, while we're getting set up, I'm going to go ahead and check out the chat real fast. I asked people to try to summarize their novel in emoji form, so that's going to be really hard to like repeat out loud. So I won't, but I will encourage you to go and check them out because they're really intriguing. And yeah, that's really interesting. And also people are sharing their word counts in our last prompt for it, which was trying to use the word bone. Hi. Okay, so welcome everybody. So this is the second hour of our NaNoWriMo House Party. Right, like it's 1999, because NaNoWriMo started in 1999, and this is our 25th NaNoWriMo. And so I'm really excited to welcome both some NaNoWriMo staff. We said goodbye to Grant and Shelby and Alex, and we get to say hello to Tiffany and Josie, and also our special guest author, Andrea Stewart. So I think maybe we can just say hi really fast. I'll maybe introduce the NaNoWriMo staff first, and then Andrea, I'd like to read your bio just so everybody's up to date on who you are, and then we can get started. Okay, so Tiffany, do you want to say what you do at NaNoWriMo, and I see it's cool. We already have our pronouns in our name, so that's perfect. Yeah, what you do at NaNoWriMo, and if you want to say like the project you're working on, feel free, but don't have to.
All right. Hi, everybody. It's so good to be here. I also responded in the chat, but my name is Tiffany. My pronouns are she, they. I am the social media manager. So if you've been on any of our social media this weekend where there's been a truly chaotic amount of really great content, that's me. And I'm also the HQ lead for the Writers of Color community, as well as the events. And I'm really passionate and excited about that. It is great to be here.
Welcome. And then Josie.
Hi guys, I'm Josie. I'm the programs associate at Nano. I love doing virtual write-ins and YouTube streams, so if you've seen me before, it's probably because of that. And for Nano, I'm working on basically, I don't know what genre it is, but it's like dimension traveling shenanigans, fun stuff.
Amazing. And then we've got our special guest, Andrea Stewart. And I'm going to read your bio really. And it's Andrea, right? Or is it Andrea? Andrea. Okay. Is the daughter?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Andrea Stewart is the daughter of immigrants and was raised in a number of places across the United States. She's a Sunday Times bestselling author whose short stories can be found in such venues as Beneath Ceaseless Skies, Daily Science Fiction, Galaxy's Edge, and others. Her debut epic fantasy novel, The Bone Shard Daughter, was a finalist for the Locus Award for Best First Novel, the British Fantasy Award for Best Novel, the Goodreads Choice Award for Fantasy and Debut Novel, and the Book Nest Award for Best Traditionally Published Novel. She now lives in sunny California, and in addition to writing, can be found herding cats, looking at birds, and falling down research rabbit holes. Hello and welcome.
Thank you. I like to say I'm a multiple award-losing author.
Oh, that's really funny. And I also like it because when I first heard about people collecting rejection letters, like making the goal to collect like 100 rejection letters in a year, and the idea of like, you know, celebrating trying, even if it doesn't work out, I think I like that. Okay.
Yeah, I'm totally for that. Yeah.
Well, Andrea, so I'm going to give a quick spiel about donation weekend, because that's what's going on right now. This is kind of our finale event. And then I'm excited to hear from you about, you know, what you do and do a writing prompt together, and then save the last half hour for some Q&A. So,
Okay.
cool. I know it's kind of a weird event because like there's no time to prep ahead. You're just like, I guess I'm starting in the middle. It's just, you know, it's a party, so it's a little chaotic. Yeah, it's a little chaotic. So this is our double up donation weekend. It's our biggest fundraising event of the year. And I'm not going to do the whole spiel again, just to say that there's a lot of really great giveaways going on. And we've got some sweepstakes prize, like a balcony cabin for 2 on Joko Cruise. And then also there's an Airbnb $500 coupon, which is also really cool. Plus some really neat smaller prize giveaways too. So I'm just going to put in I'm going to pin in the chat again, just the link where you can go to learn more, like what's this hour's special giveaway prize, or you can look at what our enamel pin looks like, or that you get a special enamel pin this weekend if you donate at least $25. So pretty cool. So I'm putting that there. And that can be the end of the spiel. Also, if you're just joining now, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Mariah. I'm the director of programs at National Novel Writing Month, and I am starting the first new thing that I have written in about 5 years during Nano this year. So I'm trying to use it to get over my kind of fear of, I don't remember how to do this anymore. So hopefully I know how to do it. Well, first of all, Andrea, did you, I'm like, I did my spiel. I read your bio. Is there anything I know in the thing that I sent you, I said, if you want to talk about your work a little bit, I'm excited to do that. We've got about 10 minutes before we want to try to jump into writing. If you wanted to read an excerpt from anything, this is
sure. I can do a short excerpt. Yeah, I'm Andrea Stewart. I'm best known for my epic fantasy series that starts with the Bone Shard Daughter. I do have a new series that's starting in 2024 that I'm excited about, but this is epic fantasy in an Asian-inspired setting with like migratory islands and a magic system inspired by computer programming, plus cute animal companions. So I just basically threw in cute and creepy. Yeah, so I can just read a short excerpt from the beginning. I feel like that's like a good place to start. I'll just do like 4 to 5 minutes, I think. Does that work about? Okay. All right, great. So there's 5 points of view in this book because it is epic fantasy and that's what we do. But this first chapter is from Lynn's point of view. And she is the daughter of the emperor, and she is in a position where she's trying to reclaim her rightful place as heir. So Lynn, Imperial Island. Father told me I'm broken. He didn't speak this disappointment when I answered his question, but he said it with narrowed eyes, the way he sucked on his already hollow cheeks, the way the left side of his lips twitched a little bit down, the movement almost hidden by his beard. He taught me how to read a person's thoughts on their face, and he knew that I knew how to read these signs. So between us, it was as though he had spoken out loud. The question, who was your closest childhood friend? My answer, I don't know. I could run as quickly as the sparrow flies. I was as skilled with an abacus as the empire's best accountants, and I could name all the known islands in the time it took for tea to finish steeping. But I could not remember my past before the sickness. Sometimes I thought I never would, that the girl from before was lost to me. Father's chair creaked as he shifted, and he let out a long breath. In his fingers, he held a brass key, which he tapped on the table's surface. How can I trust you with my secrets? How can I trust you as my heir if you do not know who you are? I knew who I was. I was Lynn. I was the emperor's daughter. I shouted the words in my head, but I didn't say them. Unlike my father, I kept my face neutral, my thoughts hidden. Sometimes he liked it when I stood up for myself, but this was not one of those times. It never was when it came to my past. I did my best not to stare at the key. Ask me another question, I said. The wind lashed at the shutters, bringing with it the salt seaweed smell of the ocean. The breeze licked at my neck and I suppressed a shiver. I kept his gaze, hoping he saw the steel in my soul and not the fear. I could taste the scent of rebellion on the winds as clearly as I could the fish fermentation vats. It was that obvious, that thick. I could set things right if only I had the means. If only he'd let me prove it. Tap. Very well, Father said. The teak pillars behind him framed his withered countenance, making him look more like a foreboding portrait than a man. You're afraid of sea serpents. Why? I was bit by one when I was a child, I said. He studied my face. I held my breath. I stopped holding my breath. I twined my fingers together and then forced them to relax. If I were a mountain, he would be following the taproots of cloud junipers, chipping away the stone, searching for the white, chalky core. And finding it. Don't lie to me, girl, he snarled. Don't make guesses. You may be my flesh and blood, but I can name my foster son to the crown. It doesn't have to be you. I wished I did remember. Was there a time when this man stroked my hair and kissed my forehead? Had he loved me before I'd forgotten when I'd been whole and unbroken? I wished there was someone I could ask, or at least someone who could give me answers. Forgive me. I bowed my head. My black hair formed a curtain over my eyes, and I stole a glance at the key. Most of the doors in the palace were locked. He hobbled from room to room, using his bone shard magic to create miracles, a magic I needed if I was to rule. I'd earned 6 keys. My father's foster buy-in had 7. Sometimes it felt as if my entire life was a test. Fine, Father said. He eased back into his chair. You may go. I rose to leave, but hesitated. When will you teach me your bone shard magic? I didn't wait for his response. You say you can name buy-in as your heir, but you haven't. I am still your heir, and I need to know how to control the constructs. I'm 23, and you... I stopped because I didn't know how old he was. There were liver spots on the backs of his hands, and his hair was steely gray. I didn't know how much longer he would live. All I could imagine was a future where he died and left me with no knowledge, no way to protect the empire from the Alanga, no memories of a father who cared. He coughed, muffling the sound with his sleeve. His gaze flicked to the key and his voice went soft. When you are a whole person, he said. I didn't understand him, but I recognized the vulnerability. Please, I said, what if I am never a whole person? He looked at me and the sadness in his gaze scraped at my heart like teeth. I had 5 years of memories. Before that was a fog. I'd lost something precious if only I knew what it was. Father, A knock sounded at the door and he was cold as stone once more. So that's a little excerpt.
Thank you so much for sharing that. People are sharing in the chat, like, sounds such lovely writing. I'm hooked. And I
did. Yeah, I did want to say that was the 7th manuscript that I had written before I actually got anything published. So, you know, keep knocking on that door for sure. Like, collect those rejections and eventually, you know, persist.
I had it so that someone else shared in the chat. Oh gosh, let me go back and find it. Just Sarah says, it is so hard not to compare the gibberish I just wrote to this gold I'm hearing.
Okay. Don't ever compare what you're writing as a rough draft to your final draft. I always tell people, and it is actually pretty true, that I never show people my rough draft because I want people to think that I'm smart. So the magic happens in the edits. Just remember that, because it's always going to be rough when you write your rough draft. That's why it's called rough, right? Its only purpose is to exist. It's not to be good. It's to be there.
Hard agree. Yeah. Do you have a memory of like how many drafts, like how many times you revised or how many drafts you wrote?
Okay, so this one is unusual because like I wrote it in 3 months and didn't do much revising. And I thought at that point I was like, oh, like I know how to write a book now. Ha ha ha, right? Pat myself on the back. but every new book is a is a unfortunately, it's like learning the whole process over again because they're all so different. So unfortunately, my process now seems to be to write a bunch of words, which ranges anywhere from like 50 to 165,000 words, throw those out, and then start over again. So yeah, so I have done a lot of rewriting before.
That's heartening to hear, because from even like though I've done it, enough times, I still find it hard not to compare. Like you read, because all the books we see are published works,
Yeah, they're polished.
Yeah.
They're yeah, they've been through so many rounds of revisions and then editing professionally, copy editing. Yeah, I had something that my first book in my next series, we're moving to copy edits. But when I had sent in my book for edits, my editor noticed a place where I'd said very authoritatively that there are 5 types of magic, and then I listed 4. So I can count, I promise. I took calculus. But yeah, that kind of goes out the window when you're writing a rough draft.
Totally.
Even a revised draft that was revised. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing that and reminding us of that, because yeah, it's good to remember. Okay, so if we have about 40 minutes left of this live stream, and I would love to spend a little bit of time writing with you. We've done a couple word sprints in the beginning, but it's day 5 of NaNoWriMo, so all of our viewers out there are writers, and they're thinking about those words. So if you have a word prompt or a writing prompt to share with us, that's great. If not, we can come up with one right now.
I do. I was thinking about this. So I was thinking, write a scene in which one of your characters discovers something they didn't know about themselves before. And that could be as simple as, oh, I have a bruise I don't remember getting, or I've discovered that I actually do like yams, or, it could obviously get a lot more complicated and deep than that. But I just feel like it's a good way to get to know your characters.
Totally. I love that. Let's do, if we can do another maybe 10 minutes. So I'll do a 10-minute timer. And for everyone, if you just joined us, you're going to be writing at home, not in the chat, just like on your normal project. And if you are like, that prompt, I don't know how to use it, that's fine. Like you can just keep writing what you were writing, and then maybe that prompt will pop up for you. I really like the yam, like specifically about the yams. So
oh, that's something I discovered about myself when I became an adult. So
I like that exact fact, so I might steal it. And I'm going to put a timer for 10 minutes, and then when it goes off, we can come back together. And while you're doing this, you can also be thinking of any questions you have for Andrea, about her books or her process or anything else. All right, so I'm going to turn on the timer now. All right, that was 10 minutes. So shake off your little writing fugue state, and you can drop in the chat how that prompt went for you. And if you want to drop in your word count, feel free. If you want to drop in what your character discovered about themselves, feel free to do that as well. And while you're doing that, we're at, well, it's 1:30 for me here. So I'm going to remind people that this is the finale. I always feel like I'm doing an NPR like donation drive when I'm doing this, but that's what we're doing. We're in the finale of our Double Up donation weekend. And so I'm going to repin in the chat that link where you can see the different giveaways we're doing and how to donate and all that, because there's a lot of cool things and it's too much for me to try to say all at once right here. And then while I'm doing that, you can also be thinking of any questions that you have for Andrea. And I'm going to open that up to Josie and to Tiffany too, because I've been talking a lot. So Josie and Tiffany, if you see any questions in the chat from other writers that you'd like to ask, please jump in. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask to kick us off, please do that as well. Because I'm getting so tired. I'm sure everyone's tired of my voice by now.
Josie, do you want to go first or should I?
Okay, I have a question. But it's very like in the beginnings of me coming up with a question, so I might say it and it might not make that much sense, but I'll try to make it make sense. Okay, my question is, you mentioned like your fantasy is Asian inspired, and I was kind of wondering like because I know like fantasy as a genre is very like European centric and whatnot. And I'm like, how did you like balance like what the expectations fantasy has as a genre with like, oh, I want to like show my culture in this?
Well, I think like, you know, being somebody who was born in North America and like raised here, the stories I'm telling are still like Western storytelling conventions, you know, like it has that same kind of structure. You've got the character with their motivations, and then they have like those tri-fail cycles, and you know, it's like that, right?
Yeah.
It's very on the one hand, you know, the people in my books are like remind me of me and my family, you know, but the storytelling itself is very Western. So I feel like I don't think that people should have a problem connecting with it. I do try to make it accessible in the sense that I try to make the names like easily pronounceable for anybody, like things like that. But yeah, there's a certain point too, which you kind of have to think, well, people are willing to go into all like the Game of Thrones, like houses and like dragons and stuff. Like I'm sure that they can, yeah, I'm sure they can like just read about a culture that's like not their own and kind of do a little bit of work there, right? So yeah, so it's like I kind of try to balance being accessible with also bringing like my own like sensibilities to it, because like when I was a kid there really wasn't anything except the Western European fantasy, like dragon swords, like knights, and it was like, you know, the white farm boy who goes and has a prophecy about him. So, you know, it's funny, like when I started writing fantasy, that was basically what I wrote. And it wasn't until I got older that I was like, you know, I don't have to write that. So I think a big part of it for me is like making sure that people who are starting out now can see themselves in the stories that are being written, because I feel like then they can skip that phase that I went through. So yeah.
Thanks for answering. And yeah, I definitely relate to that. I feel like that's like happens to like every writer of color at some point. You're like, you just copy what you see in like popular media, and then you're like, wait, I don't have to do that.
Right. I mean, like that's like how a lot of people start out, right? You're writing like fan fiction essentially. And it's valid, and you learn a lot about story structure that way. But at the same time, you're kind of just like repeating what you've seen because you don't really know anything else.
I'm so glad that you asked that question, Josie, because it was like marinating in my brain, but I couldn't figure out the phrasing yet. So I'm glad that you asked it. And my question is going back to that phrase you said earlier about first drafts, and it also relates to a comment in the chat from Alice. Alice has long hair. So Alice asked, how did you keep yourself motivated to keep going and not give up on your dream? How many hours a week were you devoting to writing in those early days, especially? So I don't want to overwhelm you with a question that just feels like really big and amorphous, but I was really struck by what you said about how like a first draft is meant to just exist. Its whole purpose is just to be there. And that was like really powerful to me. And so, and I remember how you mentioned that also you had like 7 full whole novels before you even really got to this one. And so I wonder, like, how did it feel with those 7 novels? Which each one that you wrote, were you hoping to get it published and then gave up on it and had to move on to the next one? Like, how did you stay motivated to even get to the one that got published? Are they just sitting in your drawer somewhere? Like, I find that's a thing that a lot of writers, especially in today's gig age, have a hard time accepting, that every single thing I produce doesn't need to be sold, or that's not even the right thing to do. And so I'm just wondering how that all
well, The Bone Shard Daughter was my 7th manuscript. So there were 6 before that didn't work out the way that I wanted them to. But the first one I didn't actually like try to do anything with, because I had written that like in middle school. So I'd written like a middle grade novel. I didn't really actually like know what to do with it at that point. So the next one I finished in college. And that's when I actually started trying to sell my books, like, go through the whole process of like getting an agent and everything. And I think for me, like I'm like a little bit of a like hopeless optimist in the sense that I'm like, I feel like there's all this pressure to lower your expectations when it comes to publishing. Like you're like, okay, well, like don't put all your hopes on this book, like don't think that it's going to happen here. And I kind of reject that in a lot of ways, because I feel like having high expectations is part of the fun. So like every single book that I wrote, I was like, this is it. This is the one that's going to like break out. It's going to be a New York Times bestseller. It's going to be so great. Everyone's going to love it. And I feel like you have to have that kind of belief in yourself, because otherwise, like, what is the point of continuing to do it? Except that, I mean, I guess like there is like, you do get better, but I feel like for me, I would prefer to have high expectations and have that hope and then deal with the consequences later. So, because like, it's like buying a lottery ticket, right? You really think you're going to win? Maybe not, but dreaming that you are and thinking about, well, what if? That's like part of the fun of being alive, I think, personally. So yeah. And that's for like continuing to try. I mean, so it took me 6 years to get an agent from when I started querying, and then another 6 years from there to sell a book, because we'd gone out on submission with 2 and those died on submission. And, there was a point where I kind of felt like, well, I have to be happy with whatever else is going on in my life, because I don't know if this is ever going to work out. And to kind of be satisfied with that in a way and find some kind of joy and happiness in that, but then to just keep going, right? So I kind of described it as like giving up in a way, but like just continuing to write, because that was the only thing that I really, really wanted to do. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say to people in the sense that like, is it ever going to work out? I don't know. It could have, like, I could still be like knocking out that door too. But at the same time, for me, I just thought I'm just going to keep improving with every manuscript. I'm going to just look for the things that I'm doing wrong, look for the things that I'm doing right, which I think is actually more important. And eventually I'm going to get good enough that it's going to be hard to ignore me. So that was like another way that I just kind of kept myself going. And it did eventually work out. So, obviously survivorship bias, but I do feel like persistence is a large part of this.
Thank you. That was a great answer.
Okay, and now I'm trying to pull some questions from the chat. there's a lot of good ones. I don't know if we'll get to all of them, but one I liked was from Susie Perkins, and they asked, "What inspired your magic system in your series? I've always wanted to write high fantasy, but don't know where to start." And I have to second that because like I love the idea of high fantasy, but I'm always like intimidated by like every aspect that seems to go into it.
Well, I have a very specific and probably unsatisfying answer for the magic system in the Bone Shard Daughter. Basically, I was out to lunch with some other friends of mine who are also writers. We were in San Antonio, which is in Texas, and we went to a food court and she got some Chinese food. So if you know anything about Chinese food, probably a food court in San Antonio, Texas is not the best place to get it. So she ended up having like a shard of bone just randomly in her food and she almost choked on it. But that kind of got me thinking like, well, what if I used bone shards for magic? And then I started kind of combining that with other ideas I wanted to write about. Like I knew I wanted to write a magic system with constructs. I knew I wanted to have that idea of like carving the commands onto the bones because it's a little bit like programming in the sense that, you know, there are always loopholes, but there's like a certain hierarchy. And it to me, I like to explore that kind of fallibility of language. And yeah, so now my friends joke that one of them has to suffer a near-death experience for me to have inspiration for my next books, which fortunately didn't happen for the one that I'm writing. Thanks. So thanks to my friend who suffered, but I'm hopefully not cursed in that specific way. But I think for developing a magic system, if you're trying to develop one without having your friends getting harmed, I think it's just kind of like you have to look at like the costs of your magic system. You have to look at like what are the limitations. For me, I kind of like to draw from science a lot because I feel like there is that thing where I don't feel like they're that dissimilar. I mean, there's a lot of science that looks like magic to me just because I don't understand how it works. And I just like kind of bringing like science fiction concepts into fantasy. But yeah, I think Brandon Sanderson has like a really good lecture about magic systems and soft magic systems, hard magic systems, the difference between them and how to develop them. But I would recommend looking that up. That's on YouTube.
Thank you. I think that's the funniest origin. I'm glad your friend's okay. That's a story to tell.
I was joking that yeah, she should like sign my books too. Be like, I'm the one that started this.
I have one, unless Tiffany, you were gonna pull one. Okay. I was going to ask, and if you don't have an answer to this, you can just say you've never done it. So have you ever done NaNoWriMo before?
Oh yeah, okay. So
Okay.
I have.
I
actually
ask a follow-up question. I just want to
sure.
before I asked it. So David Turner said, "What role does Nano play in your writing life? Did any of your projects start their life in this way?"
Yes. So actually, the Bone Shard Daughter started as a NaNoWriMo novel. I mean, I don't do NaNoWriMo strictly as as I think you're supposed to, which is to like finish the book because I do write epic fantasy and they're never going to be anywhere near 50,000 words. I'm just not going to get a completed story in that amount. But I do use that to kick things off. So I did it for the Bone Shard Daughter. I did it for the first book in my new series. I was meaning to do it for the second book in my new series. I'm probably still going to try, but I did, get sick. My kid got sick and I just kind of like lost a whole week. So I may just, start in and then see if I can reach that 50,000 words. But I feel like it's such a great way to even just get started because there's that sense of community. There's that kind of accountability. I love, love, love the little graph that kind of shows you like how far you are and how far you have to go, because I think visualizing progress is very powerful. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of NaNoWriMo. I love it. I always tell people who say that they want to write a book, like, ooh, you should try NaNoWriMo.
I get so excited hearing that because, well, one, because I work here and so it's fun to hear that people will do it. But two, just because that's like the first experience I had really writing a novel was doing it in NaNoWriMo, and it's fun to be able to kind of visualize a future, you know. And you don't actually have to finish the 50,000 words can just be the beginning of the first draft of a novel. I think some people maybe write a whole novel, but some people just get a good start, which is nice too. Thank you. That's super exciting. Anyone else? I have some more that I pulled from the chat, but I don't have to be the one to ask them.
Yeah, I was also just looking at stuff from the chat. I had a joke question, but with there being so many valuable questions, I'm like, I don't know if I should ask. I was like, I want to ask about the yams. What's the
Now
yam
you have
story?
that.
Oh, it was just like I was very, very convinced I didn't like yams when I was a kid. And maybe I didn't, I don't know, but I was a very stubborn kid in that way. So I just I didn't try them again until I was an adult, even though every single time my mom made me keep trying it and I kept saying I hated it, I hated it, I hated it. And then I stopped eating it for a while. And then when I was an adult, I was like, I'll try it again. Do I actually hate it? And I was like, actually, super good. So I don't know how much of it was just in my head, because I had gotten that thought in my head that I didn't like yams and I was gonna stick to it.
Oh yeah, I know what that's like. When I was a kid, I remember I wanted my sandwiches, the crust to be peeled off. And I remember my mom saying, "You'll grow out of this when you get older, honey." And I remember being defiant and being like, I will never, I will never grow out of it. And here I am 31 and I won't do it out of sheer stubbornness alone. I don't even know if I
who would I be anymore?
I love it. I have a general question. Someone asked quite earlier, Aaron Sabrin, just asked if you have any general best advice for new writer.
Oh yeah. I mean, how long do we have?
Yeah.
But if I'm gonna just boil it down to a couple things, I think one is to find other people who are as invested in writing as you are, who are somewhat around the same level, and basically stick together because just like a school of fish, because this whole industry, whether you're indie pub or trad pub, it's hard. It's really draining, and it can make you feel a little bit crazy, and having people to talk to about it and to commiserate with and to cheer on, it's so invaluable. And also I just okay, so my group of friends that we did that, now most of us are published, and one of us is still trying and has just had really bad luck, but it's super valuable to have that because you kind of come up together. And another piece of advice that I would give is to critique a lot. I know people often say they think of critiquing as a favor that you're doing for somebody. You're like, I'm going to read your thing and I'm going to critique it, and you're doing them a favor, but really you're doing yourself a favor, because when you critique, you're looking at somebody else's work and you're thinking, well, what about this is working and what about this is not working? And then you're forced to articulate that in a way that somebody else can understand, and in a way that you yourself can understand, instead of just being, I like this or I don't like this. And that you can then apply those lessons to your own work. So I feel critique a lot, critique widely, and definitely look for the things that are working, because I know people often will focus on what isn't working, especially when you're reading or consuming media. People are very, very quick to be oh, I didn't like Twilight, or it's cool to not like things, right? But I think what's more helpful is to like things and then to pick apart why you like it and then figure out how they accomplish that. So that's, I guess, the other piece of advice I would have.
I love reframing it like that, thinking about it as a thing that really is, a nice thing you're doing for yourself as well.
Oh, for sure. I feel I got more value out of critiquing other people's work than having my work critiqued, for sure.
I have a follow-up question. I know I just asked it, but you said that one of your friends in your group is still querying and having bad luck. And Amanda Spell asks, is there any advice you have for resiliency in the querying process? So I'm wondering if
okay, so my friend, actually, she does have an agent at this point, but she's been having bad luck with the manuscripts that go out on sub. But querying, is like the worst part of the entire process, is what I say. Like, it really is. I feel like it's torture for writers. Because you're kind of like throwing your baby out into the world and being like, please love this. And then a lot of the times it's like you get no response. So it's basically just like shoving out into the void. And that can be really, really heartbreaking and really, really hard, especially if you're going into it with high hopes, which again, I think is fine. You just have to deal with the consequences. But yeah, I think that one of the ways that helped me was to kind of reframe that whole process, because when a lot of people look at it, they're like, well, nobody likes my work because I'm not getting a response. But the bar there is actually so much higher than whether or not somebody likes it, because not only do they have to like it, they have to like it enough that they think that they can pitch it and sell it to somebody else, that they're going to invest their time and their effort to do that. So it's not just that, oh, am I a good writer, or does somebody like this? You're looking at this extremely high bar. So somebody that you're querying has to be super invested in it and think that they can sell it to somebody else. And that's like basically how they earn their money, right? So yeah, that helped me, because then it was like, okay, I'm not a bad writer because I'm getting so many rejections. It's just that I'm not like hitting the right person at the right time, because you have to think too that there are market factors as well. So yeah, if you get a bunch of rejections, it doesn't mean that you're a bad writer. There's so many stories of writers out there who've been rejected so many times with their querying, like hundreds of times, and then they find the right person who connects with their book, and then they go on to sell to a big 5 publisher. So yeah, just remember it doesn't mean anything about you.
Thank you. If you had any more questions, Tiffany or Josie, we can ask them. If not, I thought we could use the last couple minutes. We were playing a game in the first hour called This or That, just about writing. So we could play a couple rounds of that as well.
Ooh, I am 100% down for games. There's like so many amazing questions that I possibly couldn't in this last 10 minutes get to it, but This or That, I was mad. I was not mad. I was a little sad that I missed out on that because I wasn't a guest earlier. I was putting up loads of social media everywhere. That's what I was doing. So let's play some games.
All right. So the way This or That works is I force you to choose I force you into a binary, which is like the opposite of what normally we do. And I apologize in advance. So I'll just give you 2 choices, like red, blue, or we were doing writer ones, like coffee, tea, music, silence, and you just have to like say the one, like you have to pick one. You can't say both. Although of course some people like choose hot chocolate instead, and that's fine too. You're in the chat, you can answer. And if you're in the live stream, maybe we can go the way that my screen looks. It goes Tiffany, me, Josie, Andrea. So maybe we'll go in that order. Okay. So my first one is, okay, this one takes some explanation. Planner is when you plan ahead, and then pantser is what we call someone who just jumps into a first draft with no planning. So planner, pantser, Tiffany.
Oh, that's a hard one. I immediately want to do the middle one, which is plantser. I used to be a hardcore planner, and then I learned the hard way that when I plan my whole thing, that feels like I've written the story, and then I don't want to write it anymore. So now I have kind of switched over into a pantser, because otherwise I get bored of my story.
All right. I always say if I had to choose one, I would choose planner. Josie.
Yeah, I feel like I'm similar to Tiffany, where I'm like used to be like a hardcore planner, but I've gotten a lot from being a pantser, especially during Nano, so probably pantsing.
Andrea.
Oh, definitely a planner.
I feel like with high fantasy, like there's so much work. Like I don't know anyone who pantses something that requires so much like world building.
Oh yeah, I have my conspiracy maps and PowerPoint for sure.
I love that. In the chat, people are, I think, kind of split. Yeah, plantser. People are choosing plantser too, which is like the middle one, which is fun. A lot of pantsers, which is fun. I admire it. I would be scared. Okay, next one. This one I gave you 3 options: beginning, middle, end. This is like what you prefer to write: beginning, middle, end. Tiffany.
The muddy middle is an insane problem for me. I often prefer to write the end and then work backward.
I find it impossible to write the end. It takes me until like maybe my 5th or 6th draft to actually write an ending because I hate it so much. So I'm going to say beginning. Josie.
Okay, see, I love writing beginnings, but I'm actually more like an ending person because usually have the ending like planned out, and I'm like, oh, I'm doing everything to get there. And I wish I could write backwards, but I'm using that ending as my favorite scene to be like, I'm gonna get there one day and I'll write it and it'll be great.
Amazing. Andrea.
Oh yeah, the ending. I love that emotional catharsis. Like I'm very like Josie, where I'm like, I'm headed there and I know what it's gonna be. So when I get there, it's like, yes.
Whoa. I admire that. I just never know. I don't know. I get lost on the way. Like I start going and then I'm like, I went the wrong way. And then I have to go back and then I have to like try again.
I wonder what chaotic person says they like writing the middle best.
Some people are
'Cause
doing
I'm
it. I
like-
can list some chaotic people. Paula Greenfield is chaotic. Lady Patil is chaotic. JM is chaotic.
Yeah, I'd like to say I used to be that way. I used to have stories on Fiction Press and fanfiction.net back in the day, and I would just get lost in the middle. And I'd be like, what is happening? I'm just putting characters in fun situations. There's no story now. So
All right. Do you like to make yourself laugh when you write or cry? Laugh or cry?
I like to make myself laugh, especially with dark humor. It's especially characters who are serious. My favorite thing is to write a super serious character and have them make people laugh. It feels fun.
I love making myself laugh, like being surprised and being like, oh, that was funny. Josie.
Laugh because I think I'm the funniest person whenever I'm really into writing, and I thank you for that.
Andrea.
Oh gosh. That's you're making me choose.
Sorry.
I guess laugh as well. Like I'm probably more prone to laugh at my own stuff than other people are to laugh at it though. So.
I'll laugh. In the chat, there's a lot of laugh, but people are also saying cry. I so avoid writing sad scenes. I don't know. I'm not maybe good at it or I don't like it. I like laughing. Okay. I do see someone who said, hold on, I want to find it again. Ari says, cry, angst, angst, angst. Which is pretty funny. Okay, and then my last one is, okay, character or world? What is like you can interpret that however you want. Character, world. Tiffany. Yeah, sorry, you have to go first every time.
Yeah, I'm one of those overthinking type A kind of people. Literally, the sticker on my laptop is "Let me overthink this." But I say character because is a type A completionist perfectionist. World building is an excuse to get lost and to not tell the story. So character.
Oh, me too. I would say character just because I'm really bad. For some reason, like I must move through the world just not seeing anything but people because that's how my writing looks. I don't know. Josie.
Okay. Okay, I don't do extensive world building, and I do love characters, but I do have to say world first because I think you need to like have a good like grasp of the world before you have the character, even if it's just like, oh, the world is like my neighborhood. Like that explains things about your character. So yeah, that's how I do it.
Andrea.
As much as I love world building and exploring new worlds, I have to say character because I feel like they're always the heart of the story. And that's what you're there for, like, the vast majority of the time.
Yeah, that's a good point you brought up, Josie, because Craft in the Real World by Matthew Salaces is like how we've updated our nano prep, and he talks a lot about the importance of world building and how that impacts your character, that they bend into each other. And now that has gotten me thinking differently about world building. So
I wish I could do it. Like I really do. When I look at my writing, I'm like, are you really walking through your normal life and just you don't see anything? Because why does your writing look like that? I don't know.
yeah, I will say when I was an editor, I was a copy editor and a developmental editor for over a decade. It is weird when people are like, where are these characters? Are they just in the white space loading zone of a video game?
Yeah. Sadly, I think mine are. That scene you shared earlier, Andrea, I feel like somebody said early in the chat. Actually, I think it was Tiffany who said it, maybe. Just like feeling like you were in that room with them. That was you. Okay, I thought so, actually. So I don't know. It's funny how like they do intertwine, like the character plus the place.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you're describing the place through your character's eyes, so you're going to get that view of the world from how they feel about it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, which is, you know, brings us back to how this or that is like a really silly game because it really doesn't. That's why it's a game, I guess. We're at time, but I want to make sure that I give first of all time to say thank you so much, Andrea, and tell everybody
Oh,
that
thank you so much for having me.
yeah, of course. And everyone should check out the links in our description because I think we link to your website and they can buy your books. Is there anything that you want to plug or any place that our audience can find you or your work that you would like to share, and we can add that as well?
Not really. I'm just, I'm online on Twitter, which is kind of going downhill, and like Instagram and
Oh, you mean
sadly,
X?
yeah, I know. That's like the only thing that I'm okay with dead naming is that site. So yeah. And then I'm sadly on TikTok now as well. It's Andrea G. Stewart is my username on all of those sites. So yeah, that's basically where you can find me. I probably hang out too much on social media. So
Amazing. Thank you everyone also for coming, for writing with us, for playing my forced binary games. And for, again, I have this pinned and I'll do one more of my like NPR like donation things. It's our Double Up donation weekend. We're community funded, majority community funded organization, which means it's like people like you giving $5 or $10 or $25 is what really like funds all the fun stuff we get to do. And all of our programs are free and will always be. So we really appreciate you donating if you can, and if you can't, just being here and sharing your energy and your word counts. And we're also trying to reach 200 million words today. So definitely update your word counts after you check out that donation weekend link. Yeah, I never know how to end these. It's like I've been hanging out with you guys for 2 hours. I just kind of want to keep hanging out. But I'll just summarize. Grant summarized earlier. He said, write a lot, update your word count, check out our donation information if you can, and I think probably buy Andrew's books because I want to know what happened next. And thank you,
a
Joe.
lot of stuff happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean you mentioned like conspiracy, like you're plotting them, so I'm sure lots happened. Thank you, Tiffany and Josie, for coming as well. And I guess right on is how I'll end it.
Yeah, this is great.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Happy writing.
Hold on, I have to end it here. Does she know how to do it? I thought I did. Sorry, I just don't see the end anymore. I truly don't. I'm not making this up. Like I don't see. I'm like on YouTube looking for where to end the stream, and I just don't see it.
Maybe it's just if you ended in the Zoom.
If I end it in the Zoom, it'll just continue, I think.
Oh, weird.
What is going on? My settings are all funny now.
Oh, we're stuck here. You
I
you
know.
manifested it.
I
We
don't
can
know.
never leave.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna try to end it in the Zoom, I guess, which means I have to say goodbye to you guys for real. So thank you.